Amazing Grace. It's an old favorite of many, many Christians' congregations, and it finds its scriptural root in one of the gospel readings that we hear during the Lenten season. When Jesus heals a man who was blind since birth, it raises a lot of distress from those who are in power. They confront the man himself, that formerly blind man, and repeatedly ask both him and his parents how this happened. From the gospel, we're told that he answered, I do not know whether he, meaning Jesus, is a sinner. One thing I do know, that though I was blind, now I see. They said to him, What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered them, I have told you already, and you will not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Now, in this particular healing story, we see a reflection of how being once blind and now being able to see, which ties into the words of our hymn. And then there's also places within the other gospels that we hear descriptions and parables about being lost and being found. The gold coin that is lost, the sheep that is lost and then found. All of these themes are found in Amazing Grace. Now, the history of the hymn itself is also fairly well known. It was written by an Anglican priest and poet, John Newton, who wrote it from his own personal experiences. When he was growing up, he really didn't have any kind of religious connection, and he got a reputation for being rather rebellious. He eventually was pressed into the Royal Navy, and then in 1748, as a sailor, he became involved in the slave trade. In that same year, the boat he was on got caught in a severe storm, and when the violent seas overwhelmed him, Newton cried out to God. He later would say that this was his moment of conversion, although it did take him another 6 or 7 years to stop sailing, study theology, and become both a priest and an abolitionist. And so, and you'll probably be able to speak most of the words along with me as we go through this hymn, but let's take a moment and listen to the words of Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fear relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright, shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. So, a couple of ideas to get you contemplating about the words to this hymn. How did the concept of God's grace impact you? And what does that concept of grace mean to you personally? This hymn is, as I said, a story of conversion. Have you ever experienced a radical change in your own life? A conversion, as it were? And since most of us don't like to change, how does it feel to know that God's grace is available to help us during those times of upheaval? And now I'll send you off into your day humming that tune in your head and thinking of those words to that powerful hymn. And until we meet up again tomorrow, you take care and may God bless.